Hey guys, today we're showing you another restoration project I just finished here. And this video is for Dave, who owns this awesome little Moog source. Now this is an early unit. It's actually 639th one built, or 1639 serial number. You start with 1000. But it's just a really great example. Somebody's taken very good care of this unit. I don't know if Dave's owned it too long, but whoever he bought it from took good care of it as well. It's just a really good example of a Moog source. And so really my focal point was in electronics. I went through it. It didn't sound right. You know, some things that just wasn't quite right. So I just went through it and did my usual stuff. First start with the diagnostics, fix the issues it had. And I went through it and replaced all the common failure trend components, rebuilt the power supply, new memory battery. Took the keyboard apart, even though it's really clean. I went on and took the keyboard apart, washed the keys, cleaned the key bed, cleaned the key contacts, put it all back together, do a full calibration, and then gave it 12 hours burn-in to make sure everything's going to hold up like it should. And so that's what it got. It got the full treatment. But it still got the original membrane interface, which is working fantastic. We decided to keep it because it is working so great, and Dave wants to keep it, as original as he can, which I completely understand, because this thing works just fine. There's no reason to really pull it. So it's in good shape there. But for those that don't know what the source is and hadn't seen my other videos, I'll kind of go over what it actually is. So you can kind of think of this synthesizer like a digital prodigy. So if you guys know what a Moog prodigy is, this is kind of like the digital version of it. And I say digital not in the sense that it's got DCOs and the sound's not digital. It's using VCOs, it's using a VCF, it's using all the stuff that Moog's known for, but you can think of it kind of like a memory Moog. So instead of having the knobs actually interact with CV voltages, it's run into a computer, and the computer is actually running a DAC, or digital analog converter, and it's actually making the CV voltages to run the oscillators and the filter and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how you can think of this instrument. But it's got a very similar concept as far as what the project has, where you have two oscillators. It's a two oscillator synthesizer, Moog transistor ladder filter, two envelope generators, a very simple LFO. So you got a low frequency oscillator over here with routing to the oscillators or the filter, triangular square wave. So very basic LFO, just like what you find in the Moog Prodigy, very similar. The difference is the rate. You can go faster on this thing than you can a Moog Prodigy because of digital referencing and that kind of stuff. But that's really it. Great sounding little synth. These things are just fantastic. They sound really good. And you do have different octaves than a Prodigy. So this one you got 32 on both oscillators, where Prodigy has 32, and that the oscillator 2 only goes to 16. And you've only got a pulse wave and a square wave. This one here is actually a variable pulse wave on both oscillators. So you can change the pulse width of both oscillators, which is really nice. You can get that really fatter sound because you can get two square waves and that kind of stuff. But what you do have extra in this instrument is you have a sequencer, you have arpeggiator, you have some extra stuff that you don't have in the project because it does have that digital computer in it, so it's a digital control. So it gives you a little bit more stuff to work with in that sense, but you do lose the knobs, and that's the drawback. That's the only big drawback to the Moog source. And there's actually one critical thing that personally I don't like about it, and I'll just kind of explain it. So if you're using this thing live, and let's say that you want to make your own sound in your editing sounds, for example, and let's say that you have the emphasis active. So now you can see what your emphasis level is, but let's say that you're playing and you don't know what you're looking at, and you actually bump this wheel. Well, now you've changed your emphasis, and maybe you wanted to go to cutoff. So cutoff is 34, and you're just playing in real time, and you bump that. Well, now you've changed your cutoff. So you don't know where you are after you edit. So emphasis, you're playing, you don't know what you don't remember where you were, so you don't know what this 18 is actually referring to, for example. So that's the only drawback. And but once you get past that, you can save presets, which is what made this thing really cool. So you can actually program your sounds and save them. And so you didn't have to do too much editing live unless you just want to change something like the rate of the LFO or something like that. But that's really the only drawback to it. But like I say, it's you know, cutting edge for its time. This was 1981. You know, microprocessor control was a big deal then, and so it really shows the time period of Moog transitioning from completely analog to now kind of incorporating digital control into their synthesizers, with this and the memory Moog in particular. But yeah, like I said, it's just a really good example of one. I'll just kind of give you a quick walk around here. You can see your serial number here, so you can see it is yours, Dave, 1639. And I didn't really do any updates as far as the interface or any of that kind of stuff. Still got the cassette interface jack. We left it just original. And so, you know, like I said, I kept it as original as I could for him, and just did a few things electronically that didn't really matter about originality. There's some things that, you know, you can just, you know, some things are better improved upon, especially when you get into early units. But just really stuff to reduce digital noise and that kind of stuff as well. But anyways, let me put the camera on the tripod here and I'll make you guys a sound demo. Alright, so anyways, I'm just going to start first just with preset 1, just to kind of show you that this thing does function here. And then I'll break it down and show you the oscillators, the filter, just like I typically do in all my videos, so you can see exactly what you're getting back here, Dave. But anyways, here's preset 1. I'll just go down the keys first. So you can, that's preset 1. You got an octave shift, so right now we're in 0. We can go +1. So anyways, that's your octave shift. You heard the modulation a little bit, and also the pitch wheel. Just kind of, so that's your modulation. But now I'm going to break it down to an instrument. So I'll show you what the pieces of this instrument, like I typically do on these things. We'll turn off oscillator 2, open the filter up. That's the only drawback to the source, is you don't have real-time control. So you have to like just hit a button and go over here to the incremental control. But let's see, we should have, turn glide off. So there's oscillator 1 only. We'll turn it down just a hair. So oscillator 1, you got a 32/16/8. You got a sawtooth, a triangular wave, and then you got a variable pulse wave. So we're at 50 on here. It's a square wave. We can actually change that with this wheel. And that's oscillator 1. And then oscillator 2 has the same thing. It has a 32/16/8 footage, and then this is kind of what it sounds like. Then we also got the variable pulse on it as well. And so that's oscillator 2. You've also got interval control, so you get a wide range of the frequency. So we can go back here and so that's oscillator 2. We'll combine oscillator 1 back with it. or at 50 you can hear it's in tune, so it's within the 50 range. I did a full calibration, so everything's really tight. Then we go back to 0, and you got a little detune in 0, so if you go all the way to 0, you're going to hear a little beating. So right there on the verge of 0 and 1 is where it goes into tune. So there's your oscillators. Of course, you can hear the beating between them. See how accurate the tuning is in those two oscillators together. We've also got oscillator sync. So if we hit sync, we'll go to square wave on both of these. So what the sync does in this case is you use your pitch wheel over here, and you can do bends. It's only going to bend one oscillator, and it gives you the oscillator sync pitch effect. So we'll turn off oscillator. You go negative, but you don't get anything. And so that's oscillator sync. Turn that back off. And that's your oscillators. We've also got the noise source. Now this uses a digital noise source. It's actually a chip that has a reset, so you hear the reset in the chip. You can kind of hear it. Same chip you find in the memory Moog and some of the later Moogs. Earlier Moogs used a chip as well, but it didn't have the reset, so it was actually pretty smooth. So now we'll close up this filter, and I'll show you the filter tracking here. So we can go full. Bring our cutoff down. We'll turn on oscillator 1 just as a slight frequency reference. So now we turn that off. And that's just a filter. And the filter is kind of hard to tune on these things because you don't have a 440 Hertz reference. So whenever you turn the oscillator on, you're actually feeding audio through the filter, so it makes it kind of hard to tune. Where on like a mini Moog, you got the 440 Hertz, it's not going through the filter. So it allows you to tune the filter a little bit more accurately than actually sending a harmonic through the filter and then trying to calibrate the filter or tune the filter to frequency input. Turn that back off. Basically got a wide range. Bring it all the way down, you can hear that. Bring that volume up just a little bit. That's just the filter you're hearing there. So what we'll do now is I'll show you the contour work. So bring up the mounted contour. We'll set the contour all to 0. So we have just a click. Make sure this is going to sustain for us here. So now we'll bring up the mounted contour. Here's just a click. Like so. I'm bringing up the loudness contour release time just a little bit. So now I'll bring up attack. We can set our level of contour here. So here, that's your attack time. Then we got the decay time, which is set to 0 right now, so we'll bring it up a little bit. And we have release set to 0, that's why you hear it immediately go back down my alpha key. So anyways, you can hear your sustain or your decay time. We also got the sustain time, which that's how low that's going to go. So you got your sustain, and then we got the release time. So if we Then we'll bring this all the way up on this so you can hear the full release time. So as you can hear. So that's your filter controller there. Bring that back out, of course. You also got your filter tracking mode, so we can turn tracking off. The filter just set at one frequency. I don't know if you can hear that or not. We'll bring up the... So you can hear we got half track. These are kind of like the switches on the Mini Moog, or actually just like the switches on the Mini Moog for the tracking control, 1 and 2. Same kind of thing here. Then we got full. So there's your full tracking, half tracking, and on off. Then we got the loudness controller. So I'll bring up the oscillators again here. Bring this back down in volume. So now we got the loudness controller, and I'll show you this right quick. We'll set everything to 0. So now we should have just a click, which you can hear. We'll bring up the attack. So there's your attack. We got the decay time. As you can hear there. And then we've got the actual sustain time. So that'll actually, you can hear that click. It allows you to get some percussive stuff. Set the decay time up a little bit. Set the sustain all the way to 0. You can hear it's just a little blip. But you can hear when I said a little sustain, it doesn't die all the way out. You can still hear a little bleed. And then we got the release time, which you've already kind of heard, but we'll bring it up. And this is how much time it is after you release the note. And there's your loudness controller. So that's kind of how it works. The other sections is it's a pretty simple little synth actually. It reminds me a lot of the Prodigy, even internally. Some of the stuff is very much like a Prodigy. But we also got the modulation. So you've already heard the modulation a little bit, but we can put it on the oscillators only. We got a triangular or square wave. You get something like that. We got the rate, which this is where the source is really cool because it's got a really fast rate. do some kind of cool, some kind of sounds there with it. So there it is, engaged into the oscillators. And we also got, we can put it in the filter. I'll close this filter up a little bit. So now we can actually put it into the filter. So you just kind of hear how that sounds. Once again though, we can close that up and kind of get some we can kind of make it talk a little bit. So there's the modulation section. We've also got the single and multi, which is actually really handy. I'm going to get kind of a bass sound set up here. And I will say this thing has really punchy envelopes. So right now we're in single. So you can say I can re-trigger a note. We have nothing. If I hit multi, you can see I can hold the note, hit the lower note, and it'll actually re-trigger the envelopes. Otherwise, you have to play it like doing that same pattern. Otherwise, you have to release the note. But it allows you to get those kind of double pieces off that key, so you can get those. Or otherwise, you have to like, hurry up and release. So it makes playing it a little bit easier in some instances there. But that's really the instrument. We got a few digital things in here I'll show you. So we'll reset to preset 1. So we've got record, which I've already just recorded just a few little. So it actually has 2 memory banks for sequencers, which is what you're hearing there. And what I love about the source, it actually does record in real time. So if you change a note within a certain time, if you're not exactly on click track, it's going to record it just like it's not on the click track. So it's kind of neat. You can get some really complex sequences kind of stuff there. We've also got the arpeggiator, which is pretty simple, but it's cool too. Actually, so it always starts with one note. Multi-trigger. So you got the arpeggiator, and then we've also got like sample and hold. So we got sample and hold of the oscillators. We've got sample and hold of just the filter. Like so. We got auto trigger. And then of course we got the cassette interface stuff here where you load and save presets. But you can also you have continue in your sequencer mode. I didn't bring that up, so you can actually combine 1 and 2 together and get a longer sequence, which is kind of cool. You also got a program sequence, which is actually how you can program sequences within key changes, so it's kind of neat. But that's really it. It's a pretty simple synth, but for the time period, 1981, this thing was pretty advanced. It was using a Z80 processor. It's a hybrid, so it's all VCOs and filters, and typically what you find in Moog, but it's all digitally controlled by DACs, kind of like a memory Moog. Very similar idea of theory as far as using a DAC to control CVs through demuxing and that kind of stuff. But just a really cool little synth, and like I say, it's just a really clean example of a Moog source. It's just really nice. But anyways, guys, appreciate y'all watching. And Dave, I want to give you a special thanks for letting me, fix this thing up for you. Didn't really have to do too much to it because you took such good care of it, so it made my job a lot easier. But once again, I do appreciate it, and there'll be more videos to come here soon. Take care.